Variable is a placeholder for data. Data is a placeholder for what? Information. When you take that data and you process it, what will come out of it is what? Information. Hello, welcome to my class once again. Now, we are going into a completely new topic, and that is typecasting. But before I go into that, let me just explain or answer some questions that people have been asking me. I notice a lot of people are confused in terms of what is database, what is programming language, what is object-oriented, what is procedural, what is class, what is object, what is method. They ask me all these questions. So let me just give you uh, a brief analogy of how they function and their relationship. Now, first and foremost, database is a place where you store data, right? Now, that is different from library. Library is where you store code. And I told you at the beginning of my class on Python that you have data in one hand and then you have code in one hand. In using a programming language like Python or C or SQL, now what is the relationship? I see a lot of people come online and tell you, oh, teach you data analysis in 1 month, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. Those are preambles. They are just going to give you an intro into it. There is no way they will give you the full study of everything, right? Now, I have done a series on SQL. I'm now doing a series on Python. I will do a series on many other languages as we go on. But let me just try as much as possible to link them a little bit together. Now, you have data stored in database. If you need to access this data, you will use a query language like SQL to access those data and pull it out. Now, with that, you are answering a what question. There is a what question and there is the how question. What do you want? You use a query language to get that from the database. How do you want this what to be presented? You use another language to do that, right? So SQL will answer the what question of you accessing the database and pulling out data. Python will answer the how question. How do you want this data to be presented to you? Now, SQL is a query language, but you just write a query and it accesses the database and pull out the data for you. But there are times you want to keep that data in a particular form somewhere else and later come to use it. Because in SQL, you have different, in the database concept, you have different tables, right? Different tables. So all your data are kept in different tables, in different places. Now, if you want data that is just from a particular table alone, you can just write a query language and you pull it out. But what if you need data from this table, from this table, from this table, from this table, from this table? Now you will need to write a procedure, a function, or a view, that will enable you to achieve that. Now, to do that, you can't just use SQL alone to be able to achieve that. There is another language attached to SQL, which is PLSQL, Procedural Language SQL. Now, that will enable you construct whatever it is that you want and keep it somewhere so that you can come back later and call that thing and use it. So that is one part. Now you talk about C language. C language and many other type like Java in that group. For example, the case of C is a procedural language. A C language is a lower level language that is closer to the hardware than we human beings. You are dealing with machines, you are dealing with hardwares. So, for example, your computer system, electronics, your integrated circuit, those ICs that are on the board, the language, most of the language that you use in writing the program at that stage, mostly is C language because it's closer to the hardware than a human being. Now, Python is an object-oriented language, which is closer to the human being, is a higher level language than the C. C is a lower level language, meaning closer to the hardware than the human being. Python is a higher level language, closer to human being than the hardware. That is why in the typecasting I'm going to teach you, right, you will see that the memory size of a particular data type in Python will be higher than that same data type in C when we check. I'm going to do an illustration for you to see that. So that is the difference, right? Now, we want to look at data typecasting. We've looked at variable. We've looked at data. Now, a variable, you would say, is a placeholder for data, whereas data is a placeholder for information. For example, now I'm using English language to teach. Learning English is one thing. Being able to put everything together to pass information is a completely different concept entirely, like what I'm doing. What I'm teaching you now with this programming language is I'm teaching you the language in itself. But the goal of teaching you this language is to be able to create a solution. That solution is what will benefit the society. So we are looking at 3 stages of wisdom: knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Understanding is how to convert knowledge into wisdom. That is why you will see a professor at that level. All what he has in his head is knowledge. But being able to take that knowledge and convert it to wisdom is a completely different ballgame entirely. Elon Musk, what is he doing? He brings professors together. He brings scientists together. He might not be any of this, but he has an understanding of how to convert their knowledge in their head into what? Wisdom, which is going to space, going to the moon. So these are the different stages: knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Ability to take knowledge and convert it to wisdom is what? Understanding. Some people have that. Some people have knowledge and it's just sitting in their head. They will not make as much money as those people that have wisdom, because what people actually pay for is what? Wisdom. So in data analysis or data science or whatever, you pick data from the source and then you convert it to a form that will be able to pass the information. So variable is a placeholder for data. Data is a placeholder for what? Information. When you take that data and you process it, what will come out of it is what? Information. Same thing as your fuel. Your petrol or your kerosene or your diesel are not always in that form. They are in a particular form, which is crude. And then you have to pass it through certain processes for you to get this component part. That is typecasting. You need a chair. You won't see chair in nature. What you will see in nature is tree. God will give you a tree. And then you take that tree, you pass it through certain processes, and you get out a chair that you sit on. You need a table, same thing. So sometimes we pray to God for something, but God answers us in a form while we are still expecting it in another form. We don't know that all we need to do is take the form that God has given to us, pass it through certain functions and procedures, which is the process, and then we'll get out the form that we need. So many a times we say God doesn't answer prayer, but that is actually what is happening. So in this new class now, I'm going to teach you typecasting, how you take a particular data in a form and convert it to the expected form that you need, and then use it in your program to get out whatever it is that you are looking for. So that is what I want to tell us now as we go into this new class of typecasting.